Well, everyone, I am back for another YouTube video, and this is coming after a thrilling 24-23 victory. Florida State beats LSU in their own backyard in New Orleans. I am super excited because everything kind of planned out as Mike Norvell talked about. The confidence level that he had in this team, the intensity, the level of response. There were so many different facets in this game. While it shouldn't have been super close in this game, like I said, we got the job done, we got the victory, and now we're 2-0 for the first time since 2016. So there's a lot of different factors that you have to think about this, and we'll kind of go position by position in this kind of video. Let's go ahead and start off with Jordan Travis. This was his coming out party, and he went 20 for 32, 260 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He had 31 yards rushing on the ground. He was effective. I believe he had a second and 20 or a first and 20 call that he had gotten for a 21-yard gain. So very impressive to see him still being able to utilize his legs. And LSU kind of did exactly what Brian Kelly was talking about, keeping him in the pocket, making sure he was very predictable in his passing game. But my gosh, man, he delivered. There was a lot of doubters for Jordan Travis saying he was an athlete or just a running back, couldn't stay healthy, couldn't do this. And Jordan Travis could possibly just go down next week. You never know. I don't want to jinx anything, but at the same time, this is a great performance by him. His teammates really believed in him. They understood he is the guy, and you saw it on a national stage that he is a viable quarterback, especially in the ACC where there are a bunch of talents there. Just realistically, I really do think that Jordan Travis is making strides as a passer. You saw that efficiently throughout, and his offensive line played a big key as well. He talked about the big guys up front, being able to protect him, and just being an average unit, offensive line unit. Even though with the injury of Bless Harris, there was a lot of factors that kind of went into that game, but they gave him a lot of opportunity to be successful, especially in some of those rollout passes that he had to be successful, to utilize his legs on some of those options. I thought it was very key for that. Running back wise, I told a lot of people in my preview there wasn't going to be these 300-yard rushers, first time in school history against Duquesne kind of situation coming over to LSU. You know, you had those defensive linemen that were coming in like Ojulari, and you also had Mason Smith that was honestly, I hope goes all out to him because of his injury that he had after celebrating. Wish him nothing but the best. Hopefully he's okay. But just overall, I mean, Trayshawn Ward ran really, really hard. I thought he had some really good runs. I thought they had that reverse with Deuce Spann. I thought they were very efficient with that. Trey Benson had a little bit of a tougher time trying to get through and be a powerful runner, but you know, it is what it is. You're going to have off games. Lawrence Toafili had a couple of carries. You know, it wasn't really much to it. Micah Pittman had that jet sweep, and DJ Lundy, the fullback, got that huge I formation. James Coleman will be very happy with that moment, but just super excited to see where Florida State goes with a lot of factors in that run game. I think they're going to continue to evolve that. But when you saw a lot of blitzes and stunts coming up the middle, there were a lot of efficient places that you can go, and Trayshawn Ward was definitely that guy they were trying to lean on in the run game. They set up a couple of nice runs there. They had one run called back for a Dylan Gibbons holding call, but overall, I thought it was very good in terms of run protection. I thought you were able to do a lot of things offensively. You had a couple of drops in this game. We'll get to the receivers in just a second, but just overall, I thought they did a really good job in scheming up some of those guys there, and I thought there was a lot of good looks that you had on that offense too. You basically made that defense really, really confused in what they had. Let's go ahead and get to the receivers. And this is a guy that through all the talk of the offseason, you talked about those transfer wide receivers, and I've talked about them enough. You know, Micah Pittman, Johnny Wilson, you know, Deuce Spann, and then you got Winston Wright coming back eventually. Everybody was kind of discounting the guys that were already on the team, and Ontario Wilson did not play last week because of an injury. And he comes back in this game and is like, I think I might have the competition to be able to be that leading receiver. Last season, he had 382 yards and 5 touchdowns. And in this game, he had 7 catches for 102 yards and 2 touchdowns. One was off the flea flicker. The other one was that incredible one-handed grab after Jordan Travis had that targeting penalty there from the LSU defender. And he stood in there and basically delivered basically in the breadbasket. You know, he had a couple of throws in this game where you couldn't have placed it any better. I know everybody's talking about the 4th down call where they should have just kicked a field goal. But man, if Florida State would have went up 14-3 right before the half and then was able to get the ball and score again and make it 21-3, man, that's a knockout punch. And to see Micah Pittman drop that in basically a breadbasket where only your receiver can get it was kind of disheartening, but we'll kind of let that slide. I mean, Johnny Wilson also had a huge drop there. Even though it was in double coverage, man, Jordan Travis put that on a line, and it was right there. And it just so happens they had that. And I believe he had another one where he was a back shoulder fade, and he was able to kind of throw it up. He wasn't able to high point the football, and Jordan didn't throw it high enough for him. But just overall, though, I was very impressed with the receivers. Cam had a huge drop, but he also had a couple of good catches there. He had 2 catches for 23 yards. Nobody really else showed out other than those 4 receivers, basically, with Ontario Wilson, Johnny Wilson, Micah Pittman, and Cam McDonald. But you had a couple of guys that had some dump offs here and there. But just overall, I was very impressed with the receivers. I thought they did a really good job. Offensive line, you look at a guy like Maurice Smith, there's a lot of different appearances that you've had with everything going on. And really, when you looked at everything, how he was injury wise, was he going to be able to come back? And he had that brutal injury in fall camp, and we all didn't really know what to expect. You already had Caden Lyles go down for the season, and then you had your center depth kind of being messed up with Smith there. So you're trying to figure out different ways to be successful. And you saw Maurice Smith; he was battling through that. I mean, that was injury after injury at that point, and he just kept getting up. And you even talk about a guy like Turntine going in at right tackle in place of Bless Harris because of the arm injury. I give him a lot of credit because that's short notice at that point. I know that Bless Harris, was a little bit shaken up in that last game, so you're trying to figure out different pieces there. But, man, Turntine did a really good job there in trying to efficiently be there. And like I said, the offensive line is serviceable. That's a big step in their development. And unlike Florida State in years past, they've actually have an offensive line that's able to protect and give you a little bit of time here and there. So very impressive from the offensive standpoint. Defensive line, Jared Verse is a man possessed. I tweeted this out earlier yesterday. Man, he cannot be stopped. And I really thought at the beginning of the season, I thought it was going to take him a little bit of time to have the lights come on for him. But, man, that was very, very, very impressive from him. He was very aggressive. Will Campbell, the true freshman left tackle for LSU, had no chance. I mean, that was just something else. Jared Verse really made that there. And Cameron Wire is another guy at right tackle for LSU that was having some difficulties as well. And, man, he had a game. And there was a situation there where I thought, man, Jared Verse may take over at this point because really offensively, the only thing LSU had anything to go through was Jaden Daniels running the football. And we'll get into that in just a second, but containment was definitely an issue. You look at different pieces there, and Florida State really wasn't able to contain Jaden Daniels very well. But I thought when they were able to put Kalen DeLoach out there at the linebacker spot and spy him, I thought they were a very efficient team doing that. You were able to kind of get in that nickel or dime situation. You still had Tatum Bethune out there in a coverage linebacker spot, being able to defend the middle of the field. And I thought it was very efficient. I mean, Keyshawn Butte didn't really do that much, and Neighbors didn't really do anything either. So there was just a lot of factors that you didn't really have to do in this situation. And I thought that they would have been able to kind of neutralize that spy, being able to kind of force him to throw the football downfield, and they kept everything in front of him. I thought they did pretty well for the most part. And the interior with Robert Cooper and Fabian Lovett, they did a nice job with being able to neutralize a lot of those interior guards, and made Dellinger, who had 2 errant snaps. I mean, that was an efficient game too from them. So I was very impressed to see the defensive line as a whole. Linebacker-wise, I say Kalen DeLoach played a pretty good game as well. Tatum Bethune played a good game also. He's very instinctive, was going sideline to sideline. Both of those linebackers are very impressive. And I talked about before, this is probably the best linebacker core that we've seen since 2015. And I wasn't just saying that because I don't like making overreactions on everything. But, man, those linebackers are very, very, very impressive. So this defense can be really special if it puts everything together. And the defensive backfield, everyone was kind of criticizing them from Duquesne. There were some, open receivers and stuff like that. They were just trying to figure out some of the kinks. But Renato Green had a big game. Marion Cooper had a big game against Butte. Akeem Dent, man, he really had a good game as well. Jamie Robinson, the list goes on and on. I think there was a lot of good pieces there to be able to kind of build your defense on. Now, here's the bad stuff. I know everybody's talking about everything. Ryan Fitzgerald, the kicker, had a couple of missed out-of-bounds kickoffs that led to 35-yard line, and he also missed that 47-yard field goal. So there are pieces that Florida State needs to work on, and Ryan's got to get more consistent. Don't want to bash the kid, but at the same time, you have to understand there is an expectation, especially when you are a kicker. You do have to be able to be efficient in the special teams regard. I understand what he was doing. He was basically cornerman in the corner of the end zone there for a return, so they have to return it. But like I said, you just need to go ahead and kick it into the end zone in that corner to be able to be efficient there. But like I said, other than that, okay. Sam McCall still got to work a little bit more on his kick return. There was a little bit more sloppiness there. Mastromono only had 1 or 2 punts, if I remember correctly. So he did an okay job at that point. He didn't allow any big returns or anything like that. And also the muff punts, man, that was, those muff punts were very, very crucial for Neighbors. That was something that you can't really take back at that point. Florida State got lucky with the second one. Probably shouldn't have happened. But the kid just didn't do as well with that. So, then you got the 2 block extra point. You got an extra point block, and then you also got the field goal block. And I thought that was very impressive for Jared Verse to be able to go through there. And he even talked about in the press conference, they schemed that up because there was a lot of different factors that LSU wasn't really doing in that regard, blocking protections and everything like that. So, and then the Shaheem Brown blocked extra point, man, that was something of beauty. That was, even though we got to a situation where Jordan Travis had pitched the ball to Trayshawn Ward, basically on third and goal right there at the 1 yard line, instead of being a fullback dive or a quarterback sneak or even a handoff, they pitched the ball. Ball comes on the ground. Trayshawn Ward typically doesn't fumble that in that situation. Mike Norvell called the play. He blamed it all on himself at that point. That was Mike Norvell's calling on that point. I understand what they were trying to do and getting out to the perimeter and being able to get some key blocks downfield and being able to stay in bounds. But at the point of it is, you had so much success, running it up the middle because Mason Smith is no longer in that game at that point because he had injured himself in the first quarter. And Ojulari was kind of dealing with some injuries as well. And Ali Gay was out. There was just a lot of different factors that were going against LSU in that regard. And I thought in the interior, you needed to take advantage of that. You needed to be able to, even if you got stuffed at the 1 yard line, you take your field goal and you go up 10, and the ball game's basically over at that point. Now, everybody's criticizing where Florida State got lucky in that regard to be able to stop them and everything like that. I totally understand it. But you also have to understand that this team wanted to go out and they were able to respond in an efficient way. I know that the 99-yard drive, especially playing prevent defense, was probably not the best because you're giving them 15-yard out routes and getting out of bounds and different things like that. But just overall, it was a gritty effort from this team, something that you haven't seen in Tallahassee in quite some time. And it's just very efficient to see how this is going to be able to respond. And Mike Norvell talks about this in his press conferences ad nauseum. I mean, this is a response. He talks about the word constantly. And this is a situation where Florida State finally needed to let everything go and get to a situation where they can be successful. And I think Florida State did that in this game. Almost gave me a heart attack in that game, but blood pressure's all right. We're 2-0. We're going into a bye week, and we have 12 days to prepare for Louisville. This is a team that we have struggled with the past couple of years because you look at it, and Florida State defeated North Carolina at home as a 5 seed, and it was a very impressive win. They got a huge win against Sam Howell and Matt Brown, and then they turn around and go to Louisville, and they get killed by 32 points. So there has to be an efficient play here because we have been struggling to beat Louisville. You talked about in last year's game, the defense struggled early in the first half. They settled in. We still lost. There's efficient ways that you can be successful, but you can't get everything on this one game. You have to learn from your mistakes. And as Mike Norvell talked about, he said, even though we won this game, we still have some things to correct, but it's a whole lot better to correct those issues if you won this game rather than you lost. And I'm just glad Florida State was able to get out with the win. My voice was basically gone yesterday, and it was a very intense environment. I know there was about 50-50 Florida State and LSU fans. There was a lot of different factors going into it, and they talked about it before. This is basically a home environment for Florida State, and fans just want to see Florida State be successful. And I think you're actually getting a glimpse of what it is. Bobby Bowden was talking about everything with lose big, lose small, win big. And we're in that win small category right now, and we're slowly getting back to where we need to get to. I'm not going to say we're back. I'm not a Miami fan saying that we're going to win an ACC championship every year and a national championship. But I am saying this Florida State team has the potential to be something special as we go on throughout the years. And I think Mike Norvell is extending and building that type of foundation that is very special to Florida State fans. I know that everybody wants to see that quick turnaround, that five, they don't want to see a 5-year rebuild at that point. They want to see, instant results. They want to see, well, Baylor did this last year, or Ole Miss did this the year before, or something like that. They want to see those quick turnarounds. And with how many coaching changes Florida State has had within the last couple of years, it's only so much that you can have. You have to gain the confidence from these players and these coaches in being able to be successful. And a lot of times when you see these players that have been through multiple staffs, you talk about a Robert Cooper or a Cam McDonald or guys like that, even a Pokey Wilson, who had a great game in this one. He's been through 3 different staffs at this point, and you're really wanting to see consistency through your guys that are there. And really, I mean, are you going to be able to be that type of leader to be able to stand up and say, okay, we are rebuilding, but we are coming and we are trying to get better each and every day. So I really do think that Mike Norvell is preaching a great message here. He's got a great foundation set for what can be. We have to focus up and go to Louisville next, and I'm very excited to see where Florida State ends up in this one. But if you like the video, please like it. Comment your thoughts on this wonderful, outstanding win that we have had today, and just celebrate. We're all Seminoles at the end of the day. We can be critical and everything like that. But one thing's for certain, Nole Nation is very strong. You're either with us or you're against us. And I hope everyone has a great rest of the day. And as always, go Noles.